You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Weird Science Marvel Comics Podcast, episode 76. That is legacy number 576. I'm here with my man, Matt. What up, Matt?
What up, what up?
What up is the amazing Spider-Man again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was so great last week that we get it again this week, and we get our first tie-in, right? Because we did One World Over Doom last week, and a bunch of tie-ins came in. Now, a lot of them are going to be on the Weird Dose of X podcast.
Yes.
I asked Jason if they were going to be doing the Weapon X-Men, the Wolverine Deadpool book, tying into One World Over Doom, and these ended up saying, well, we have so many. If you want one, you could take it. I said, we're planning on it, and then I'm blaming Doom Academy,
yes,
what we're going to be talking about, because if I didn't read that first, we certainly would have been doing the Weapon X-Men over Doom Academy. I figured a lot of people like Strange Academy. I loved it when it came out. And then you get this. And it was a slog, so much so that I almost fell asleep. And there was no way with timing that then we could do the Weapon X-Men. It took me almost an hour.
I did fall asleep, but I had a little more time than you.
About an hour. It took. I just, at one point, I swear, and this is not a joke. No, maybe it might be. I ended up where I swore that I had read at least 70 pages. And then I looked, I was at page 12. And then I looked again after what seemed in my mind to be 10 more pages. I was at 15. And then again at 20. And then I just almost gave up, but then I was almost done. And then I got to the end. And as we speak, I finished it about 40 minutes ago. I can't remember a damn thing about it. So hopefully when we get to it, we'll be able to go through it fairly decent. But I'll just tell everybody now, I warn you, it's not good. And if that's what you're going to get from these tie-ins, because lo and behold, it is nothing at all to do with One World over Doom, with Doom, on Doom, whatever the hell it is. I'll tell you, we'll get to it. And I have a theory when we do get to it. But of course, we always start with Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Should we anymore? I don't even know.
Well, it's like those wacky rules that Eric has over at DC.
Yeah,
I guess you kind of have to.
It is the big book, but I almost also, I don't know. Is your we have
it's missing a page.
It's missing a page. It's missing the second part of
the recap.
The recap of the credits page. What are they doing? Plus, the guy who sends out the things, he's a nice enough guy, but because of the holiday that we had in the States and things came late, and he also labeled the file wrong. Like, they can't do anything right at Marvel. But here we are. The Amazing Spider-Man number 68, written by Justine Ireland, Andrea Brocardo on pencils, Marcelo Menez on colors, VC's Joe Chiamagna on letters. And I was going to tweet out the one page. I sent you the one page. Mm-hmm. I swear, the art has now decided that this does not mean anything. At one point, some of the art was still decent enough. Hoo-wee. Even the Andrea Picardo, we had her last week, and this week is even worse. And it's like,
well, it's coming out weekly for some reason. I mean, this is
very weekly.
Why are we rushing this?
Not detailed.
No.
Here's the thing: if they could give us all the issues that remain today, I'd go for it. And then we're done.
Get it out of the way.
Then we have Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly.
Just send us the scripts. Don't even bother drawing it. Just send us the scripts so we can get out of this.
So I can use it to wipe my behind. Because here we go.
Yeah, but who is this? Justine Ireland on this one?
Yeah, it's Justine Ireland. But at this point, I couldn't even blame Joe Kelly, who I still think had the basic idea of this.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Nick Lowe and they just joined in, whatever the case may be. But at this point, you have gotten so far removed from the contest and all this that they don't bother anymore. And then to have it at the end, I mean, it would be as if you had the Final Four. Say we're college basketball, the Final Four. You go through the whole tournament, March Madness. You get to the finals game, and then they decide we're now playing baseball. Mm-hmm. That's what this seems like. You have a tournament set up, and then suddenly everything is changed to now be, okay, tournament doesn't matter, now blight, which everything is ill-defined. Nothing matters.
Do you even know what round you're in? Even if we were playing basketball, what round is this?
It's the
Are we in the finals, semifinals?
280th. I don't know.
Are we back to the beginning?
This is what happens now with these things. I mean, if you are a DC reader or fan and you happen to have the unfortunate deal of reading Teenie Howard's Catwoman, when she had the 9 lives, I kept saying each week or each month when we got it, how many lives do you think there's left? Nobody could tell me because you didn't know, because it's so generic that the tournament in these things are usually just set up as just a backdrop so they can do their nonsense. And that's what happened. We don't know what round. We don't even know how many rounds there are. There was never a point. Now, we assumed that with the idea of, and I'll get to this too, the 8 deaths of Spider-Man, you would assume there were 8 rounds, something like that. But now, even with the reads being given out willy-nilly, who knows even if that's even a good title? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you anymore because we start out, and if you haven't been reading, well, first off, congratulations. You're smarter than us. But you end up having the X-Men have to jump in and end up fighting the Scion of Sidorak because, lo and behold, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, has given up. Now, the big play was he ended up seeing that he became a nihilist. And somebody even mentioned on the YouTube deal that they like that. But Peter had decided he had seen the future and everybody dies. Lo and behold, Aunt May, she's not immortal. I mean, you can have one more day, but you can't have one more day after day after day. Eventually, she's going to die. She looks like she's 500. So, she had a good life. But he ends up saying, well, I've seen everybody die, so it doesn't matter. Why should I save them? But he wasn't saying that if I back off from here, I can't save them eventually from. But what he was saying is everybody dies anyway, so I don't care if they die now. This tournament is based on the idea that if you lose, seemingly because it's not well defined, that the world becomes a Sidorak hellhole. And in my mind, the people who live, they're going to be the ones who are really upset because they're going to have to deal with it. But if you lose this tournament, the whole play is everybody's dead. Immediately, they're dead. Yeah. So Peter was saying before this issue that, yeah, I saw them die anyway. So what does it matter if they die now? I can't save them then. So why bother now? Because lo and behold, we all die. So, whatever. Until this issue, where then all of a sudden it becomes the stupidest thing I've ever read in my life until we get to the next book. But you end up where all this going on, Peter is there and you have this Syra, whatever you say, we'll say Kyra. She's there crying. Peter ends up like the dialogue in this where he's like, I don't know what she's crying about, but it must be pretty bad. Who-wee? And then he's like, yeah, what's up? And she's like, yeah, nothing. I'm just upset for you, not me. Look. And they go out, and lo and behold, Randy, Aunt May, Shay, and Rando, I think Roberto, his name is, dead. They're dead in the streets. Dead. So right there is like, you're not going to be able to, in my mind, to get past this idea that Peter sat it out, and everybody he loves seems to be dead. Good job, X-Men. You did a really good job protecting them. And the best thing is, from last issue to this, it really doesn't make a lot of sense there. Also, it was because Aunt May, remember we were yelling, Aunt May kept saying, everybody in feast, but then 2 pages later, everybody, she took too long. Yep. She's too old. Maybe she broke her hip. Also, I just don't love the idea of seeing, them just lying there dead. I mean, hey, you resurrect him. She's still dead in the streets. I mean, yeah. And so at this point, in my mind, like the idea that we have been saying all along, we knew eventually Peter would get back into the game and do the thing, but the damage is done. He sat it out. When he was told this would happen, he said it didn't matter because even if they die, they're just going to die anyway. I can't stop that. Woe is me, whatever. Until he sees them and says, but wait a minute, I thought that they were supposed to die later. I'm like, are you that dumb? And I'm not just talking to Peter. I'm talking about everybody involved in the story. Are they that dumb that we don't actually, that we're going to go for this? The idea that if he loses, which he should have, I mean, the idea that what's going on in this? He end up being the champion and says, I give up. It should be over. The whole world
you
should be a
automatically lose.
Sidorak hellhole.
Yep.
And it's not. But Peter's like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. I saw their deaths. Yeah, but after that, you gave up and said you didn't care. So then he's like, oh, no. And then just right after, and he's like trying to grab like Aunt May's dead body. and the art is just not good. Actually, it might be a decent thing to not have great art here. Remember when we had that first issue and you had that horrific Peter getting resurrected?
Yes.
Like, how far are we from that?
It seems like a year.
Yeah. So you end up where Peter says, can we use the reeds? Now, in that, the funny play here is that because there's 4 reeds left, you kind of need 4 people because you want to get Peter where he has none left. But they couldn't figure out who else they could have here because if you end up having, I guess you could have had Felicia.
Yeah, so they just throw Ricardo into the mix. So
they throw this Ricardo guy in here who, as he wakes up, says Miss Parker, so you know that May's banging him because she's not even using the missus there as a widow. But you end up where it's like, oh my God, hey, you're fine, get up. And also Peter also was able to convince Coulson, which seemed weird because I don't think he's that, but hey, can you make it so they don't remember dying? So you're just making up shit is what you're doing to just then have Peter say, that's it, I'm in the game. You know what that means? That means we just wasted 10 issues, it seems. This doesn't make it better. This doesn't make you, this is what we said, when you push a person down to get to then bring them up to status quo level 0, that you didn't do anything. You artificially made him sit out to get to what he should have been.
The fake death of Aunt May to bring him back in. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It'd be funny if they only had 3 reads and he brought back Ricardo instead of Aunt May.
I think it'd be funny if, like, issues down the line, she's not right, She came back.
Like, none of them are.
Yeah, they're just, and you can't fix it. It's just the end of Aunt May,
Yeah, it's done. So in that, the X-Men are still fighting, and now they're fighting devil dogs.
Which just keep coming out of nowhere. They're like unstoppable.
And then more come, and then more come, and all this going on. It's just ridiculous. You can't even keep track of what's going on. Now, Kalex is the big bad because he has the blight. He's there yelling and screaming. He grabs, Cyclops by the neck, throws him, bashes Juggernaut away. All this going on to then have him just, when Spider-Man joins up, he's like, okay, I'm going to get out of here. And he disappears, makes more devil dogs. And then when they leave, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we're told by Kyra that, oh, Spidey, me and you are phased out of existence at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody now has the blight. And
they're all attacking each other.
Except Juggernaut, because he's the presence of Sidorak on Earth. So they're all attacking Juggernaut, but he could take it. Now, if you think that I ended up skipping things and I'm explaining it in a convoluted way, like, oh, why isn't he explaining this? It's not explained. This just happens. You go from one panel to the next, and suddenly Kyra goes, oh, we're out of existence at the moment. Everybody has the blight. You see everybody around town. Yeah, everybody around. So basically, in my mind, Aunt May, Shay, Randy, and Ricardo, they now have the blight, and they're
ripping each other's throats out.
What should have been the play here, in my mind, it would have been better, is the idea that some of the X-Men died, right? And then you end up where Peter still feels bad, gives them, but because they died, they missed out with the blight, and then you'd have somebody fighting. But that's not the deal. You end up having, this poor guy, him and his wife are like fighting. She's throwing a teapot at him. Like, what do you care?
This other guy's going to fight his dog, it looks like.
Yeah, he's fighting his dog. So you have Juggernaut fighting, and this whole play of, oh, because of this, we have to go back and see Daddy. We have to go to the whole realm, and off they go to really do nothing. They go, and all the brothers and sisters of Kyra, they're dead. So I guess the tournament's over. Right? Now we're dealing with the blight, so you don't need the tournament, I guess, whatever. And then Spidey's like, I'm really sorry. Everything we saw with them, where they were fighting tooth and nail. So we made fun of Sidorak, who was just like sitting on his toilet.
He's still sitting there doing nothing.
He's just sitting there, and they're like yelling at him, why aren't you doing anything? He's not doing anything about not doing anything. And then Peter yells at him. A portal opens. A crazy entity is coming in.
Yeah, what is that thing?
I don't. I guess it's the blight.
Blight monster.
The blight. But I think it might be Calyx transformed into that coming in because suddenly then he's there. And he's got Peter by the back of the neck, which is exactly what he did to Cyclops pretty much, and then snaps Peter's neck and kills him and throws him on the ground. And I laughed at the end. I was like, really? Like, you really think after all this bullshit that I'm going to think anything that they write means anything, right? I wish that what this meant. Peter is dead. That means the whole lot of them get fired. Yeah, Nick Lowe, hit the skids, everybody, and then bring in somebody else new to do this stuff.
Honestly, if you told me Peter Parker is dead and we don't see him again for 20 years, I would almost be happy. Just and a new Spider-Man happened in Spider-Man #1, I'd be cool with it.
Wouldn't you think to yourself, at least at this point, maybe something good could come next?
Yeah, because this system's broken, man.
It's bad.
Yeah,
like this is where DC gets criticized a lot, even when they don't actually reboot, but they get criticized for rebooting a lot. And people, oh no, the Marvel's great. They don't reboot; they keep going. But do you want to keep going? Do you want to keep with this stuff? I mean, seriously. Now, if we saw that all of a sudden the mask gets taken off and it was actually Paul, then that is great. But I even thought at one point was there a weird switcheroo? But what does it matter? I mean, what's going to happen will probably end up being Ricardo. Ricardo will be like, I don't deserve this life. Or it's going to be Coulson who's going to do something. He even said at one point, I'm kind of new and we know he is. I have a feeling he's going to risk it all and bring back Peter.
On the cover for the next issue, it's like Doom swoops in and does something. So,
and isn't that great that Doom finally shows up?
But we got to go through a Dot Deaths issue first.
Yeah. And the Dot Deaths issue seems to just be this issue. Right, and then,
from the perspective of the X-Men, maybe
Doom will come in, and then they'll try to make Doom look like a hero by doing some spell, or say he'll do a time travel spell or something nonsense. Right? It's infuriating how bad it is, but it's kind of funny, and I can't say that I don't expect it because if I said I didn't expect it, it would be ridiculous. Because I expect it. I expect this to be bad, but not this bad. Not actually getting worse. At some point in these stories, you usually get to the bottom. In the last 4 issues, we end up saying, well, it sucked from the beginning, but at least they righted the ship a little. Or when this just keeps getting worse. It really gets worse every issue, and that's almost impossible. But it's possible because it's happening. But what would you give it?
I don't remember what we gave the issue last week.
We gave last like 3s.
Yeah, I'd go with that again. Why not? It's no different. It's just as infuriating.
I'm going lower. The idea that they claim that Peter's an idiot, and I'm going a 2.
Yeah, and Nick Lowe's saying, "What are we gonna get? How are we gonna get out of this pickle?" It's like, dude, shut up.
Shove that pickle somewhere. I'm telling you, I've never witnessed something as far as I've been doing comics where a guy is so awful and just inept and yet gloats about it. Like he's just there with the lowdown and talking about how, oh man, can you imagine what just happened? I'm like, no, I couldn't because I have a brain. I'm telling you, it's that bad. It's so upsetting. And it's upsetting because, again, this is a book that we'll always end up doing. A lot of these others will just drop, but it's Spider-Man. So we try to keep with it, but now we're going to go to the next book. And here we go. I mean, the idea that Spider-Man's bad is that, to me, is a different level. It should be one of the better books. It should be something you're taking a lot of care with, and they're not. The art in the issue, I even had a couple things I sent you, the screenshot. They're just awful. It's just awful. It's not even like detailed art.
Yeah, the faces are just blobs.
The faces are, and a lot of this issue was that. Now I get it. I don't think I really want a real detailed Aunt May death scene, but I don't think they said, listen, make shitty art so that we don't see that. You didn't even have to show that, but we go to the next book. I don't know why did I read this first?
When you suggested this, I'm like, okay, sure, we'll do it.
Just because Doom Academy, Strange Academy, I really liked. A lot of people really liked. At one point, it was like on everybody's like, hey, I know that Marvel's pretty bad.
But Scotty Young is a very a good writer. And artist.
And Humberto Ramos' art was
both
great.
Both of them, yeah.
And so even when I started kind of arguing with some people that I needed that book to progress, like, hey, we're were never in class. That was my big thing when we reviewed it. You never saw them actually in the classroom where you learn. And I said, it's a Harry Potter type book, and where you learn about a lot of things are during class. Who's good at what? Who is mad at this person? Whatever. And they kept going on trips and field trips, but it was still good. And now I realize afterwards, when it's continued, not just here, but in other things since, yeah, it was way better. You know, I didn't know what we had when we had Scott Young and Humberto Ramos, but now we go to this, and I do believe that maybe after the word got around, hey, we're going to make Doctor Doom the Sorcerer Supreme, I think that they ended up going to this Mackenzie Cadenhead and saying, hey, we want you to do a Doom Academy book. She started doing it, and then they decided, oh, wait a minute, we're going to do this One World Under Doom. And so we'll just put that in there. This will be part of that as a time, because it does not mention one thing about the One World Under Doom. All it does is say that Strange Academy, because Doom took over as Sorcerer Supreme, is now Doom Academy, and he's made it go in Latvia. You don't even have mention of Blood Hunt in this. There's nothing that is mentioned at all about anything else except, hey, kids, we're going to get you here in Latveria to go to this new Doom Academy, to the point where even the parents oh, some of the kids didn't let this and whatever. I mean, you're in pretty much an over-fascist government of Doom going on. Who would send
It's one
them
thing
there?
to send your kids to New Orleans, which is in the United States, and all of a sudden you're going to Latveria. Come on, man. And it's a bubble around it.
And when you have this ominous Doom, yelling and screaming about taking the world over and stuff, I'm like, yeah, my kid's fine there. And even the idea that Doom is showing up at the beginning in this to even be anything to do with it, I do think that this was something that was going to be just its own separate thing at one point, and now has become just a tie-in just because they have One World Under Doom.
It opens up with "You belong to Doom."
I know, holy moly. And even then, listen, I'll give you the credits. It's written by Mackenzie Caden.
Hey, I'm just a kid.
Art by Pasquale Ferry, colors by Edgar Delgado, letters by VC's Clayton Coles. This is the thing. This is an all-ages book. And not even that. I can't even say that. This is a book for 8 years and under.
Well, it says rated T+.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous for a book like this.
And in it, I actually thought, who is this Mackenzie Caden?
She writes Marvel Mutts. I just looked it up.
She wrote Marvel Mutts. She also has a couple young adult novels. She was a Marvel editor. She's that. So she is writing this as a young adult, whatever book. But I remember being a young adult way back. I mean, I remember, during the Depression era, you end up where this is so overly written that if I was a kid, I would end up just in
that stupid font too. It's hard to read.
I'm bored now. And as a kid, there's no way. It is so overly written that it is almost laughable, because then it starts. I mean, you're One World Under Doom. Oh man, it's a big event. Doom is so badass and whatever. And it starts with, you belong to Doom for a semester. Hooey. That's all I should have read. I should have stopped right there and just went and read the Weapon X-Men, because it goes in now. If you are a Strange Academy fan going into this, you're only going to get a handful of the kids. You're not going to get Emily, Toth, some of the, big favorites. But with that, you're also going to get, say, Calvin. Things went a little bad for him during the Strange Academy times, but he's in this, but he doesn't. He says 3 words.
There's those 2 Asgardian brothers that aren't here.
Yeah, the Asgardian brothers aren't here. You get Gus, the big giant, the front. One little scene with 1 word, which is kind of similar, but usually with Gus, you'd always have looking in windows and fun things like that. But you don't get that. What you get is mainly Zoe, but then you'll get Doyle a little and Shaylee. And that's okay, but the problem is when I'm reading this, it's like, if you have read Strange Academy, it feels like this is, you're waiting while you're reading it for Mackenzie Cadenhead to catch up to what we know about the characters. It feels like she is 7 issues behind everybody reading it, and then eventually she'll try to catch up to us, because everything is little mentions to make oh, she knows the character, but it's too much. It ends up where you just end up there in Latveria. You're told that some of the kids who aren't there, they couldn't go because their parents wouldn't let them. And then there's just prolonged scenes of nothingness. You end up where Zoe shows up, and if you're not aware, Zoe is a zombie. She has an amulet that makes her not zombie-like. She shows up, and she has a roommate who
vampire
is...
roommate or something?
No, the vampire Shaylee. This girl is the girl who's casting spells to ward out evil. So then that upsets Zoe, but then Zoe hears a voice, but I thought the voice was actually the girl, but it isn't. We find out that there's a haunted room that they're in.
Well, she was like, I'm going to be my real self, and I'm going to look like a zombie.
She was going to go zombie.
And then she sees her roommates like crazy about warding off zombies.
Yeah,
so she's like,
she's like, no, I better not. And then the big thing with Shaylee is the idea that she didn't want to come here, but when she got here, she thought it was great because it's organized.
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up where she is like getting involved with all these other kids and doing these groups and things like that, kind of leaving Zoe out. And that seems like that's going to make her upset. Then you have Doyle, who is Dormammu's son, if you're not aware, but keeps mentioning things about Emily. But she's not in the book. But then they get involved in doing the school paper.
The librarian guy and the school.
Guy, this editor kid, whose dad is the editor of the Latvarian paper that was in
which is in continuity. So Eric would like that. So.
Fantastic Four guy who does the propaganda newspaper of Latvarian, but he wants to be different. And then him and Doyle start going, hey, fathers, right? And then they have that deal. You do have Zelda, who is the librarian. She has made the trip with them. And then you also have Brother Voodoo, who's there as well. I'm telling you, it's a mess. And it's just scenes just going on and on. You end up having Zoe, who is writing in a journal in what I think is supposed to be recap for people if they didn't read Strange Academy. But if you haven't read Strange Academy, you're not going to know anything she's talking about.
Don't even bother.
Yeah, it's the stuff that she's writing and doing this deal. It's so ambiguous and, such a nothing. And then the big play is that was her supposedly writing for this paper, but it's really like throwing shade at I don't know what, nobody's going to like her after this. But then the editor's like, I got to change this. Then we get propaganda talk again. Ooh-wee. And yeah, they're there. And then even some things like, hey, Doyle, I want you to write up a piece about all the things that you can see. And I start right away. He's not going to know that. And then he says, I'm not going to know that. And then you just go from there. And then you just have this whole play of there's certain kids fighting with that kid, like the cliques, but nothing is spelled out well. Everything is just told to you in a weird way. And I think at the end, I was confused, and I shouldn't be confused. I'm an adult reading this. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
If you don't actually read it and you just flip through it and look at some of the like nonsense that's going on in the background and stuff like the weird aliens or monsters or whatever walking around. There's one point. There's like two people like having sex or something on a tree.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on there.
What they're doing, all ages book, right?
And that kind of stuff's
like
all right.
There's like nymphs kissing. I see it now. But, and so then they're like, then
Gus is sitting outside looking in the window.
Yeah,
though.
Gus is just looking in, but it's not even like cute like it was before because the art is.
There's like a weird bird
cartoony.
guy walking around and
there's
cat
all those
person.
things, but I don't think we'll ever know them. And even then, it doesn't have any of the charm that the book had before. It's just really, really bad. And, by the end, I don't know. You end up having Zoe where she goes to bed and she hears this voice again. And even with that, the way to progress the story was just them sitting there and saying, hey, where's your room? And, it's above the library. Oh, what do you mean? It's haunted? Like everything's a jump to something. It's not even, it's like, well, actually, there's rumor that this girl came and disappeared. She did this and this and this. And this just leads Zoe to follow this whole deal of this voice and goes to the attic and ends up finding a book that says once upon a time and gets sucked in the book.
To me, this is Marvel going, hey, Mackenzie Cadenhead, like, do you like Harry Potter? Oh, yeah, you like that, right? You're a young adult writer. Oh, we got something called Doom Academy. You want to do something with this?
And Strange Academy was always like Harry Potter, but that it was something.
I think she's really trying to go for it in this. With
she's not doing any.
No
character work. Nothing.
No,
nothing at all. It's really bad. It's really,
I think
really
she's aiming
bad.
a little too high for this.
Yeah,
you got to keep it a little more simple.
Yeah, she's just kind of doing nothing, and in no way or form did they even mention anything about Doom, being the one world under Doom? It's just Doom is the guy.
Well,
they make fun at one point and say, I guess when you're Sorcerer Supreme, you change names of things.
I read the Weapon X-Men, which I thought was okay. I think you would have liked it too. Maybe not as much as me, but
Did
there
that
was
have
no,
anything?
it didn't have anything. I mean, they were invading Latveria, but it wasn't
Even
direct
to
tie-in
that.
to it. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. We'll be doing the main books, the One World Under Doom. I think we're done with these tie-ins. And I'm looking like you have a lot of the X-Men books, so that wouldn't be our thing anyway. But really, there's not many things here except Amazing Spider-Man, it says, is a tie-in. But that's because that's that issue. We saw Doom swooping in.
Well, that technically all of it's a tie-in, right?
Yeah, and then Amazing Spider-Man 70, but screw all this rest of the stuff.
I don't think we read any of them. I honestly don't
I'm
think
looking
they're...
at it now. And Gabe, well, I mean, we might have...
I mean, Red Hulk #1 maybe, because
Red
it's
Hulk
new.
or Doom's Division or something like that. But if they're going to be like this, screw this. It's ridiculous. And this, I told you, it goes on for 9 months. 9 months. We're going to... Screw that. If anything... We'll see it in 9 months.
I'm not ashamed of that.
Telling you, we'll be doing.
Listen, why is there a Doom event right now? Do you know why? If you had to think about it,
there's the movie deal,
exactly. That's it.
The idea it was weird. It was set up before that, but him being Sorcerer
they
Supreme,
knew that Dr. Doom was coming in.
this.
The thing about this is my rant for a second. The comics used to lead the movies. You go, okay, we want to make a movie. Let's find a great story from the 70s, 80s, whatever, and we'll do that, right? Now it's the opposite. The movies are leading the comics, and it's a disaster.
Well, and I'll ask you one thing, too. I'm looking up now.
The movies do not need to be leading this crap.
Is the movie just the Fantastic Four? Is it just called that 2025 film? Let me see here.
No, there's a Doom. He's whatever the next thing after Fantastic Four is. Doom with Robert Downey Jr. Maybe he's in the Fantastic Four. I don't know.
If we're talking about the idea that this is coming out for a movie, that probably won't come out for 2 years. That's ridiculous.
I think he might be in the Fantastic Four, but I don't know.
I'm looking. When does the Fantastic Four come out?
In a few months, the summer.
Yeah, I see it now. It's July 25th.
Yeah.
So you're starting something now that it is 9 months long, but by the time that the movie comes out, people are going to be done with it. It doesn't even work that way for me either. The idea of we're doing this because of the movie. Well, I would think that you'd do a more contained thing around the movie. It's way too early. And and they had that timeless thing with Kang when that Kang was the thing. But
Kang was supposed to be the big thing, and then the actor got in trouble, and now they had to pivot to Doom, and this is all just scrambling stuff.
Again, maybe the event, but Doom was going to be Sorcerer Supreme. That was set up since 2019. So the idea, though, them pushing this event, it's not going to change it being excited.
And also, if you're a young adult reading
this,
is this not going to get you excited for Doom? I don't think.
I don't think any young adult would be like, I got to get this because of Doom. I think this would be something that somebody would buy for you. And I'm talking young adult. I'm talking this is 7-year-old. I'm not talking 15. 15-year-old should be reading just the regular books. This is more for somebody in 7th grade who hasn't read a cousin of yours that you just give them this book. It's terrible.
You try to get them into comics, you give them this, and they never read another comic.
They'll never read again. And then you're mission accomplished because you know that.
Good job, Uncle Matt.
Why would you want to get somebody into comics right now?
You wouldn't.
No. Why would, all it would be is you giving something to somebody and them yelling at you that it sucks. I don't need that shit. I get that enough on YouTube. So, what would you give this?
It's her first effort. It's her first effort in an actual, I want to call mainstream book that people might actually. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt, a 4 on this.
Yeah, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt, a 2.5. It's what
I like Pascal Ferry's art a little bit.
Yeah, it's still just cartoony.
It is.
Yeah, she did that Mutts.
Who's reading that though?
Deal. Young adults, I guess. Sully loved it. He thought it was great.
Marvel Mutts.
My man Sully.
Can you even say that anymore? Mutts?
Marvel Mutts?
Seems like that's canceled. I don't know. Mutts.
Yeah, I guess dogs aren't going to complain. Right now, dogs are on Twitter pissed off. Rough. It's they're the deal. Hashtag dog's life or something.
Well, I decided I'm not saying pet owner anymore. I'm saying pet friend. That's what I say.
Oh, you're a pet friend.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm a pet owner. I'm telling you, because Mia upstairs, she might think she rules the house, but friend, the next thing you know, she's like doing whatever she wants. Today, I go to feed her, and I have the thing, and all she did, she goes over, puts her nose under the bowl, and tipped it over.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And you know why? It's because she's gotten used to me feeding her. I have to hand feed her now. I guess, she's actually, I guess, would be
human owner,
because that's all she does. And I saw her pushing the bowl, and then I had shit to do. I was reading, and then she's like, boom, just tipped it over all over the place. And she demands to eat on the bed. So it's all over the bed.
She's testing you
every
hour of the day.
I was so mad. Oh, she was mad at me because I had to edit a bunch of things and do some stuff. So we were down here. And the thing is, if I give you a picture of this recording studio deal, I say studio, it's small. I don't want people to think it's fancy. Her area is like I've made sure that like I have nothing, and she has this bed, and also that she doesn't, she's bitching and moaning all the day. She's walking around in here getting pissed off. Said it.
It's your buddy. She likes you.
I don't want her to be upstairs though by herself. So,
yeah.
Oh well. But yeah, there we go. I don't even know what we're talking about now, but this was a shorter episode, but still got plenty of yelling involved because it was nonsense. This One World Under Doom is already terrible. We'll be, again, I know that some people might say, well, it's too early to say. I don't think so. I'm done. I'm done even trying to be nice. It's a pile of turds. It really seems like you said, thrown together. Nobody's talking with each other. The two, you even said that the one good tie-in that you thought, hey, but it doesn't really tie in. Gabe said that the Thunderbolts deal was terrible. Also the others. Then Jason's given me word that some of the others are really bad as well.
Mm-hmm.
And also just the idea this week, was there like 6 tie-ins?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Lot.
Like the idea that we think that was thrown together, they're throwing a lot together. They're just, hey, let that book go, that book. And this should be, in my mind, Nick Lowe's death knell. Get them out of there. They need to have somebody new doing things. It's just the same old of bullshit. It's not working. It's not working at all. You're losing everybody, including me and Matt. We can't find books to review.
It's a rough week next week too, so I don't know.
What isn't? I just go with the idea. It's always a rough week.
Ultimate Spider-Man, I guess, and Red Hulk. That's next week. And
and I mean, there were some things this week, say Ultimate Wolverine, but I said after getting yelled at last time about it, fuck that. I don't care about cursing anymore.
I read it, and it wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
but I
started reading it, and it started getting a little yakety yak for me. It stopped.
It was in the first half, and then it went real fast.
Yeah. So
it still would have been better. Honestly, it probably would have been better to talk about that than this. But
yeah, I'm done. We'll still talk about Ultimate Spider-Man, but I'm doing that begrudgingly now. I'm telling you, the doors are about to be shut. I like doing the podcast, but I'm starting to get angry at every book that we read. So maybe we do have to, like, one week or 1 month, we just have to reset and just say, like, screw it, we're not even going to do Spider. But what are we going to do? I don't know. And people like the Fantastic Four. Now it's stuck in this bullshit.
You could pick any random calendar month from any time in the past and find a better book than this and from Marvel. So
and find a better book than these two.
Yeah,
and then these are bad books, but that's why we're here, to get through them. But that is it. Hey everybody, thanks a lot. I'm putting these up on YouTube now. For the time being, I'm going to put all the podcast up on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, you can yell at us because that's wwhere all the yelling comes from. But
people tend to agree with us on those, don't
think
they?
that anybody can really say anything good about these two books.
No.
What they'll say is, why did you pick these?
Yeah, you should have picked these.
And again, some people will say Ultimate Wolverine or even Hulk came out this week, but it's a crapshoot for everything.
Well, we can't read everything, and hindsight's 20/20. So I mean, you got to go with your gut and pick a couple, and that's
what it is.
Yeah.
And it is. That's why I called it the spotlight, because we spotlight a couple, and it's shining on shit.
There always is. I've noticed that there are some weeks where we go back and read more, and there's better stuff. But there's no way of knowing that until you read everything.
Yeah. So, oh well. And we try to get it done pretty quick. We get the review copies and then do that. So
yeah,
that's just how
we're at the mercy of the review copies.
Yeah. So with that, that's it. That is it. Well, thanks for joining me, Matt. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hopefully, well, you said it's a rough week next week. We'll see. We'll see what we're doing.
Well, it's my birthday tomorrow, so this is my birthday present on these crappy
birthday.
books.
Yeah,
right?
It's a shit cake with shit icing. That's what it was. So that is it. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.